damn it, this lighting is so bad, and my coffee cup is still here from yesterday. Anyway, what's up YouTube? It's Bailey. I did get my haircut finally, as you could tell by the very messy mohawk that is still kind of in place from when I put it up yesterday. It's this messy right now because I just got up very recently, and I am too lazy to put it up because I am going to the gym pretty much after I record this, and I really don't want to fuss with my hair if I'm just going to work out. What do we do when we have messy hair? What do? We put on a hat and that looks better. I do think so. Anyway, I've seen a couple of trans women posting videos about embarrassing transgender related stories. So far I haven't found any FTM related ones, and I think I should make one. Just cause. So, I have 9 stories to tell you guys. I'm sure there will be many more in the future, but for now let's just stick with what we got. Number 1. This happened pretty recently, actually. As many of you remember from my 3-month on T update? Yeah, it was 3 months. I turned 21 last month. You know, as inevitable happened, I had a whole slew of Happy Birthday Bailey on my Facebook. Now, when I turned 20, I had already been out as Bailey. This was before any medical transition was even in my near future. My uncle, who was always pretty cool with, like, whatever was going on in my life, he has been Facebook friends with me since I started my very first account back in the day. However, on my 20th birthday, he posted on my timeline, Happy Birthday Birth Name. I was a little bitter about it, but I let it slide. My logic being, okay, well, you're just coming out now. There's really not much change yet. Your family probably still has to get used to the whole idea. Just let it go. Let it go, let it go. Don't give a shit anymore. But then, my 21st birthday came around, and first thing I did when I woke up that day, had to get up anyway, I unfortunately had classes that day, checked my Facebook to see who had posted. Lo and behold, my uncle had posted in a whole slew of Happy Birthday Bailey, Happy Birthday Birth Name. I was not happy. I deleted the post, and I messaged him saying, look, this is not cool. I don't care what your problem is with this, but if you're going to post publicly on my profile, you call me Bailey. There's some people on my friends list who don't know my birth name. It wouldn't be a nightmare if they found out, but I just don't like running the risk of people calling me by my birth name when they already know me as Bailey. Number 2. This also happened pretty recently. My grandmother's birthday is New Year's Day. I always thought that was kind of cool. And as inevitable to happen, she had people at the house on her birthday. The people I knew who were going to be there, you know, grandparents, couple of aunts, my cousin, you know, people who knew about my transition. Most of them call me Bailey, most of them try, but even those who don't are just aware of what's going on. However, 2 people who I hadn't counted on being there were my grandmother's friends. They didn't know a thing. I guess no one really said anything to them, and I really hadn't known about them being there at all. One point, I'm sitting in the room, and I'm just talking with my aunt, and then I hear my cousin call my name from the other room, and I immediately respond without even thinking about it, and I walk in there, and I see she's standing with my boyfriend, and they're standing with my grandmother's friends. They're very confused, and I'm like, this talk is happening sooner than I wanted it to, isn't it? Obviously they're very confused, and I just kind of smile shyly and be like, gender transition. They understand immediately what that means. One of them was like, well, that makes more sense. I mean, she was gesturing to my boyfriend. He was introducing himself as Bailey's boyfriend, and I was like, who's Bailey? The story, while it does have a good end, they both, at the, accepted the whole thing. One of them even said to me something like, I hear about the struggles transgender people go through, and I really respect that you guys push through all of that just to be yourself. While it does have a good ending, it's still quite an embarrassing moment of just, is this happening? Like, this is kind of a mess I just gotta comb through a little bit. It's a little, Number 3. My finger was kind of bent there. It was 3. Why is my finger bent? What are you doing? What are you doing? I started a new college last September. A couple of weeks before the first day, there was orientation day. As also typical with orientation days, they had a motivational speaker. On this day, I had not started testosterone yet. It was still in the near future, but I was binding, I was trying to look as masculine as I could. It was a day I was feeling pretty confident about the way I was passing. I had already dyed my hair, like, many different colors. I walked past this guy, he was, like, kind of making silly comments with certain students as they were passing, and he looked at me, he's like, what do you think if I did my hair like that? And the guy was pretty much bald, and I'm just like, yeah, that would look interesting. He gave his motivational talk later in the day, and at one point he said something like, we're all different. I mean, where's that girl with the multicolored hair I saw earlier? I was the only person there who had unnaturally colored hair. Number 4. Another recent happening. A lot of these did happen pretty recently. An old friend of mine was coming home from the military for Christmas. And, I was invited to hang out with him, as well as my boyfriend and a couple of our mutual friends. We get to his house, and he's up in his room with 2 of his friends who I had never met before. Of course, the first thoughts going through my head were, do they see me as a guy? Do they see me as a girl? What's going on here? Somewhere along the line, we get to talking about physical fitness and things of that sort, and one of the friends looks at me and says, wish I had your body. Well, my friend and I were looking at each other like he was standing behind the guy and just looking over his shoulder at me, and we just exchanged looks of like, what do we do now, dude? Like, we were both trying so hard not to laugh at the whole thing. And I just looked at the guy and I'm like, no, you do not want my body. Trust me on this. And he's like, no, you really have a nice look. I mean, you look so fit and you really look good. I really wish I had your body. And I'm just like, no, you don't. By the end of that night, we had gone to a bar and they had like live performances there, so it was really loud. It's very hard to make yourself heard without shouting to the person sitting next to you. The other guy that was there, the other friend of my friends, I had at some point told him during the course of the night what was going on with me, and it was just kind of like a, yeah, sure, you do you type of reaction. When we left the bar, I was still a little tipsy, and with the tipsiness, my guard was a little let down with some things. And I said to the other guy, I'm like, look, I'm gonna tell you now, because I told the other guy, the reason I said you wouldn't want my body, you would miss your dick. And he looks at me, he's like, wait, you're a girl? And of course, I had to go into the whole talk about what transgender was, and he was still a little drunk as well, so he was like, it took a little while to process, but still, it was just the awkward moments are pretty awkward. But that goes without saying. Number 5. This was when I wasn't exactly out fully. I was dating this person who was, at the time, identifying as genderqueer as well as I was. And one day we decided to go to the city, and right before we left for the city, we're like, you know what, we're just going to go in complete drag. So we got together masculine outfits, and to the city we went. We stopped in a Sam Ash, which is a music store for those of you who don't know, and I was asking the sales guy something. I really don't remember what I was asking about. I think I got into a conversation about how I wanted another violin, how I missed playing the violin. It was, a whole thing about that. And then, at some point, like, the guy was like, well, I could give you my card, and, maybe you could order one, or whatever. And then, just before he left, he said, so what's your name? And I looked at him without hesitation, I said, Carson, because that was the drag name I had used. And he looks at me with kind of a half a smile, and it's kind of like, you're very cute, Carson. And, of course, there was a moment of, oh, fuck, really? Really? Number 6. Another recent happenstance. It again happened on my birthday, my 21st birthday. I was in the car going to a bar with my friends, 21st, gonna celebrate my drinking, obviously. I had already gotten a call from a friend of mine who hadn't seen me since the month before I started testosterone. She called me, and I kind of forgot in the moment that, she hadn't heard my voice yet. So I pick up the phone, and she's like, Bailey, is this you? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like freaking out, and she's like, you sound amazing, oh my god, I can't believe this is you, blah blah blah. And I was just feeling pretty good after, we finally got off the phone, because, hey, it's definitely progress. Then my phone rings again, and I pick it up. It's my aunt and uncle from across the country. I had come out to my aunt at one point pretty recently before I started testosterone, and I really didn't know what she knew or didn't know. Basically, I answer the phone, and they're like, oh, can we speak to birth name? And I'm like, well, this is, and I couldn't get my birth name out. That was not the thing that was gonna come to my mouth anytime soon. And they fill in the blank, they say my birth name for me, and I'm like, oh man, I told them that I chose a name and everything, what's going on? But the worst part of that moment is, my aunt said, you sound so much like your mother. Ouch. But I didn't feel like making a fuss about everything, especially because, I was on the way to the bar, I was gonna have a good night, and I just, kind of rushed through the happy birthday call, so, yeah. Number 7. I had gotten a job at a Dunkin' Donuts, and this was, it was like more than a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, something like that. It was a short-lived job, but this is not the reason why it was a short-lived job. When I applied, I mentioned the name I go by was Bailey. I really didn't flesh out any details as to why. The manager was just like, no, okay, that could be on your name tag, but your birth name has to be on your official stuff and everything. I'm like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. So, about a week or so into the job, I'm working on something, and my manager is talking with another employee. The employee calls me she. And I look back at them and I'm like, oh, actually I go by male pronouns, he, him, his, I'm going through a gender change. And they just look at me like, the fuck are you talking about? And then they just start talking between them again. And that was basically the last that was ever mentioned, that no one ever said anything more to me about it. A couple weeks later I was out of a job just because I wasn't fast enough with it, but I don't really care. Duncan sucked. Number 8. I hate this one. So when I started at the new college, a couple of friends who I already known, and they were already going to school, they told me about an LGBT group that meets every so often. So I go to the first meeting, and we go around the table, and we introduce ourselves, our sexuality, our identity, if anything, and things of that sort. It finally gets to me, and I mention that I'm FTM trans. This was still before I started testosterone. And the person who was running the whole thing was actually the counselor for the school. At the end of the group, she says, Bailey, can you just stay behind? I just want to talk to you about certain things. And so I do, and she just, basically gives me, like, the general stuff of, what pronouns do you use, what bathroom are you more comfortable with using, it's things of that nature, just to make sure things were okay. At one point, we had gone back to her office to further discuss things, just to make sure certain things were on track. At one point, she looks at me and says, you know who you remind me of just with your appearance? Justin Bieber. And honestly, that was not the type of thing I wanted to hear, Like, I don't like Bieber. He's an asshole. He's overrated. I really don't like anything about him. Really? There's no one else in the world you could compare me to? A couple of months later, I'm on testosterone, and I'm sitting in the library. She comes in at some point, just, completely unplanned, and she sees me, she comes over to me, she's like, hey, how you been? It's been a while since we talked. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good. Just kind of trying to brush things off, make things quick, because I'm working on something for school. And, she's just like, I like how your voice has changed, that's pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, it's been going pretty good, I really like how it's turning out. And, of course, she looks at me and she says, you know who you sound like? Justin Bieber. In that moment, I'm like, is this woman ever gonna stop comparing me to Bieber? I mean, ew. I mean, like, there's so many other celebrities out there that you could compare me to, and you're gonna compare me to that douche. There's actually kind of a related story to this. It was also on my birthday, strangely enough. I know a lot of these happened on my birthday. Happy birthday to me. At some point when we were at the bar, we were doing karaoke, and I walk over to one of my friends, and she was talking with just this random stranger at the bar, and I was gonna talk to her about, like, doing a duet one day, picking a song where we could both really work on it. And I started talking with the guy because I was complimenting how he had such a powerful rock voice. He had actually sung Let the Bodies Hit the Floor, and he was really amazing at every aspect of the song. And, we were talking about, like, stuff like rock versus pop and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm trying so hard with, like, different songs, and it's, it's tough. And he's like, well, you're kind of going through a Justin Bieber thing, it sounds like. Is there any point in my life I'm not going to be compared to Justin Bieber? And lastly, number 9. This happened really, really long ago. Well, not really, really, really long ago, but it seems long ago. I still had longish hair. It was about the time after I came out. It was picture of it. And I went to a local barbershop to get my hair cut, and I was with, like, a couple of friends, you know, who were kind of supporting me, because it was very awkward because, like, I was constantly misgendered with hair, places. And as I'm waiting, there's this little girl there with her father, and she looks at me up and down, and she's like, "You're a girl, and you're getting your hair cut at a boy's place?" And I just smile at her, I'm like, "I am a boy." And she's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, obviously, I didn't know the kid, I wasn't going to go into a full discussion of gender identity and what that is, especially because, you know, that was not my place to get into. At one point, she's seeming to kind of process this, and then she looks down at my feet. At that point, I was wearing sandals, and I had just gone for, actually, a pedicure with my significant other at the time, who I was talking about earlier, when we went and dragged to the city. She looks down at my feet, and she's just like, "Boys don't get their nails painted." And I look at her and said, "Boys can get their nails painted, it's no big deal." Besides, it was my girlfriend's idea. And she just kind of, like, gave me that, "Okay, you're really weird" look, and walked away. You know, mentioning the haircut thing, it reminded me of another story, so I guess bonus number 10. It also has to do with, haircuts. I was at the same barbershop that I had just talked about, and I'd gone there, like, twice, and things seemed to be okay. I sat down for the haircut, and I told the guy pretty much how I wanted it. And he takes out the buzzer and he starts, cutting my hair, and he's like, "So, you really like boys' haircuts, don't you?" That was the last time I ever went to a barber. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video of really embarrassing stories. In any case, I'll talk to you guys soon. If any of you guys out there have any embarrassing gender identity related stories, feel free to drop it in the comments. I'll talk to you guys.